Ru Meditation, Gao Panlong. Hello, this is Dr. Bin Song at Washington College, and I am talking of the Ru style of meditation for varying courses I'm offering to the college on the topics of Asian and comparative philosophy, religion, theology, and literature. The ancient Chinese Ru tradition, also named Confucianism in English, experienced its second peak time in the second millennium of Imperial China, which is approximately from 9th to 17th century in Common Era. This period of Ruism is termed as Neo-Confucianism in English. Using its original Chinese self-reference, I'd like to name this period of Ruism as the Dao Xue movement. Dao Xue means the learning of Dao. Among many new traits of Ruism that the Dao Xue movement embodied, the practice of quiet sitting and other related forms of meditation stand out impressively. As influenced by the Taoist and Buddhist styles of meditation, the Dao Xue movement developed its unique Ruist style. This style cares about the holistic well-being of human individuals, advocates social activism, cherishes a this worldly oriented ethic, and is very friendly to intellectual analysis and integrative learning. In this talk, I'll use the example of Gao Panlong to illustrate these distinctive traits of Ru meditation. In the introductory part of the assigned book, Ru Meditation, Gao Panlong, I furnished a short biography of Gao Panlong. He was a typical Ru governmental official who had dedicated his entire career to philosophy, community building, and politics. Among his many venerated philosophical accomplishments, Gao Panlong's practice and contemplative writing of Ru meditation are particularly influential, and in my view, Gao is among the Ru scholars who has achieved the highest spiritual state of contemplative life in the Ru tradition. Three traits highlight Gao Panlong's contemplative practice and writings. Firstly, Gao's understanding of the significance of quiet sitting evolves throughout his life, and he also furnished rich phenomenological descriptions of his meditative experiences in varying genres of literature, such as poetry and prose. For instance, his 4 5-character poems titled as Chants for Quiet Sitting describes his sitting meditations in the mountains, on the riverbank, among the flowers, and beneath the tree. These are really among the best contemplative poems we can find in the Ru tradition. Secondly, living in the conclusive decades of the Dao Xue movement, Gao sought to ritualize Ru meditation in a fixed format of time, place, and agenda. For instance, his A Syllabus for Living in the Mountains and a Rule for a 7-day renewal describe how he conducts a meditative retreat, respectively in a 1-day and a 7-day format. I once assigned my students at Washington College to come up with their own agendas if they had a chance to organize a spiritual retreat inspired by Gao, and the results are just lovely. Thirdly, in the advanced stage of his contemplative practice, Gao conceived of the goal of Ru meditation as the achievement of being normal and ordinary, 平常, resonating with the centrality and commonality, 中庸, one of the 4 Ruist classics canonized by the Dao Xue movement. The state of 平常 intends to execute the norm, namely the varying pattern principles, 理, which indicate how diverse factors in a given situation dynamically and harmoniously fit together in the ordinary moments of everyday life. In other words, a person of Pingchang would try to realize the highest spiritual awareness within ordinary moments of their mundane life, such as how to conduct one's morning routines, how to interact with human fellows in varying relationships, and how to be dedicated to one's meaningful work for the benefits of oneself and others. In consideration of the prevalence of the emphasis by global traditions over the mysterious and extraordinary nature of meditative experience, the culmination of Gao's contemplative philosophy in Pingchang speaks to this worldly oriented spirituality of Ruism exquisitely. Fourthly, regarding the method of achieving Pingchang, Gao Panlong says, quote, "In everyday life, whenever we don clothes, put on our hats, or see and meet with one another, we do so with order and decorum. Through this practice, our heart-mind, Xin, gradually trains itself over a long period, and then just as gradually, it becomes normal and ordinary." Quote. In other words, the sustaining practice of reverence, Jing, towards the appropriately ritualized details of everyday life leads to Pingchang. More importantly, Gao thinks that one's ability of discerning appropriate ritualizations depends upon the final and utmost endeavor of self-cultivation elaborated by the Da Xue, namely investigation of things, 格物. Since it is only via the investigation of things that the rationales of ritualization, namely the pattern principles of things, can be discerned. The fourth trait highlights the distinction of Gao Panlong's contemplative lifestyle from previous Ru meditators. In the Dao Xue movement, there is a distinction of the lineage of pattern principle led by Ru exemplars such as Cheng Yi and Zhu Xi from the lineage of heart-mind led by Ru thinkers such as Wang Yangming. There would not be enough time here to elaborate their differences, about which I do encourage you to take on my more advanced level of courses, such as the 300 Ru and Confucianism. However, it suffices to say that Cheng Zhu's learning style is more externalist, since they predicate their Ru learning upon the investigation of pattern principles of things in the world. Nevertheless, Wang Yangming's learning style is more internalist, because Wang thinks the gist of Ru learning consists in recovering the pure moral intuitions, which are already within the human heart-mind. In Gao's time, Wang Yangming's influence was widely felt and kept rising. Gao Panlong, however, systematically refuted the critiques offered by Wang Yangming and Wang's followers to Zhu Xi, and sought to strengthen the lineage of the Cheng Zhu learning of pattern principle. I will raise one instance as follows to illustrate such a distinctive role of Gao Panlong in the Dao Xue movement. Once again, the following instance has a very dense philosophical context, and if some of my listening students feels it difficult to grasp the essentials of the addressed philosophy, please seek my other courses on Eastern religions. So, the instance goes on like this. As mentioned, Wang Yangming believes in the existence of the innate moral capacity of liangzhi, translatable as good knowing or conscientious knowing. It relies upon the intuitive capacity of liangzhi to grasp pattern principles of things in the world. Wang Yangming once employed the dictum, quote, "No pattern principle exists outside the heart-mind," quote, 心外无理, to repudiate the externalist and intellectualist tendency of Zhu Xi. For Zhu once insisted that the knowledge of pattern principles of realities ought to be obtained prior to one's moral actions towards them. However, to refute one's critique and clarify Zhu's instruction, Gao Panlong says, quote, "Pattern principles belong to the heart-mind, and it is also up to the heart-mind to scrutinize the pattern principles. However, if the heart-mind is not dedicated to scrutinizing a pattern principle, we cannot say that the heart-mind has possessed the pattern principle. If a pattern principle has not been scrutinized, the pattern principle cannot be deemed as belonging to the heart-mind either. Everything has its own norm endowed by Tian, heaven or the universe, and we humans just need to abstain ourselves so as to treat things as they are in our everyday life." Quote. In other words, Gao agrees with Wang Yangming in principle that no pattern principle exists outside the heart-mind. However, Gao does not think that the pattern principles are therefore able to be totally invented by the heart-mind. Instead, only when the heart-mind invests itself in scrutinizing the pattern principles of existing things in the world, the ontological reference of heart-mind can be deemed as equivalent to the one of pattern principle. To highlight this outwardly oriented method of scrutinizing pattern principles, Gao Panlong insisted that even the pattern principles of seemingly trivial things, such as a blade of grass or a piece of wood, 一草一木, ought to be investigated. This is because one would then be aware of how the life-generating power of the universe is concretely manifested in grasses and woods, and the awareness shall connect one to the power so as to nourish their own heart-mind. This contemplative and self-nourishing attitude towards the investigation of outside things puts Gao's thought in a direct opposition to Wang Yangming, since Wang once famously told that he turned into the inward learning of heart-mind because he once failed so miserably to investigate the pattern principle of bamboo trees using Zhu method. In a word, Gao Panlong exemplifies how a Ru meditator is able to do meticulous intellectual work and access the sublime experience of spiritual transcendence simultaneously. For students, scholars, and professionals who are either working in or next to the environment of modern universities and colleges of liberal arts, I think such an approach to meditation of Gao Panlong would appear very appealing.